Give them a shot to do what?
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, aka The Shy Kid, and you're listening to the Shy Kid podcast, brought to you by Give Us a Shot Network. So make sure before this episode even starts, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a sub. If you like this episode and you want more Chicago Sky and WNBA content, make sure to check us out on Give Us a Shot Network, or you can check me out on social media platforms at theshy.kid on TikTok and Instagram for pre and post game interviews with every single Chicago Sky player and coach in 2024. With that being said, let's get into our episode today because we have so much to talk about. Just when I thought Jeff was done, new GM of the Chicago Sky, Jeff Pagano, he's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. What he's been able to do is just unheard of. It's one of those things where the Chicago Sky went into one of the worst situations in all of free agency, in all of honestly the league right now. I think he had the tallest order. And that's really, just to tip the cap to him. Pagliocca, by the way, I don't know what I said in the beginning of this episode, but Jeff Pagliocca, has been absolutely phenomenal. And him and I have known each other for a little while now, and trying to get the understanding of who he is as a person, and understanding what he's about. We lose James Wade in the middle of last season, and the big part of that is really understanding what the team is going to potentially be in the near future. I think, when you really break it down and we really have these conversations about what Pagliocca is about, what Jeff wants from the Chicago Sky organization, I think he wants to develop. I think he wants the ground up to be built. He wants everything to come to him and him to slowly develop this as a team, as a unit. I'm really excited to see what the team is going to be able to look like in the next 2 to 4 years, because with today's developing news, with everything going on in the Chicago Sky organization, as of tomorrow, which will be the 2024 WNBA draft, which is probably the most historic drafts as Ella De La Don and Brittany Griner's class. We're in a situation right now to where the Sky are sitting pretty. They went from having 0 picks in this draft. Pagliocca says, nah, that's not going. He ends up getting 2 top 10 picks. One is number 3. One is now newly acquired number 7 overall pick. Jeff's been great. I mean, Jeff has been phenomenal. And there's no real other way to describe that. Jeff has been somebody for the Chicago Sky organization that just kind of filled in towards the end of last season after everything happened with James Wade, and he goes to the Toronto Raptors to be assistant coach. Obviously, that's very unexpected, but we knew what James Wade was. James Wade was a solid coach, a great coach, but as a general manager, the one knock on James Wade that I've always had is developing players wasn't really his strong suit. And not that he couldn't do it. We've seen him develop Dana Evans. We've seen him develop Kalia Copper, but he wasn't really trying to go through the draft. Really, he wanted to be able to just come in, trade away assets, bring in Candace Parker, bring in Emma Mieseman, bring in Rebecca Gardner, bring in overseas player Julie Altman, and many others, and Sika and company, and Lee. It's definitely interesting to see how he went about it, the roster that he constructed last season, because we thought last season was going to be the year they decided to tank. In all actuality, you bring in Courtney Williams, you bring in Elizabeth Williams, you trade 3 first-round picks for Marina Mabry. There was a lot that went down last offseason. Isabel Harrison, so to completely flip it on its head, lose Kalia Copper this offseason. I mean, the Minnesota Lynx right now are literally the Chicago Sky. Alana Smith, Taylor Soule, who I was just chopping it up with a little bit. Got to call her after this. We got to talk about some things. And then obviously Courtney Williams. And now they have the number 8 overall pick from the Chicago Sky. So the Minnesota Lynx have definitely been in a place right now to where you could just call them the Minnesota Sky or the Chicago Lynx if you wanted to. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see how this team continues to grow and continues to develop, because it's going to be one of those things where, it's not going to happen overnight. The Aces are still the Aces. The Liberty are still the Liberty. And I think the biggest thing right now for me is really breaking down what the Chicago Sky can do to impact the team right now. For for just a refresher, we obviously sat down with Jeff and had a conversation with him just a couple months ago after the trading of Kalia Copper, after extending her, making her one of the highest paid players in the W. Kalia Copper and Morgan Birch get traded to the Phoenix Mercury in exchange for Brianna Michaela, along with the number 3 overall pick and a 2026 pick as well. And there's several other picks that went into that with 2026 round picks, second round picks, et cetera, et cetera. The Sky got their second round pick back from Phoenix in that deal. And you understand that the Sky are now in a top 3 draft class of all time, and they're sitting at number 3. And the conversation really was Rika Jackson out of Tennessee, and I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan, so it really was easy for me to get behind taking her to be the replacement of Kalia Copper. And honestly, if you looked at my mock draft board and really my player comps for the WNBA draft this year, which we're going to get into, hopefully on Protect Our Queens in some time soon. I was talking to Marcus about it on Give Us a Shot Network. So check out Protect Our Queens on Give Us a Shot Network. They do amazing things, but we were just kind of chopping it up. And Rika Jackson to me embodies Kalia Copper. And I think that's a great comp for her. I think she also has a great skill set to herself as well. I think her 3-point shooting is a lot better than Kalia's was coming out of Rutgers. So to say that and to understand that, we could potentially go with the small forward position. But when you look at this roster as a whole, obviously the Chicago Sky trade Julie Allman and company to get the number 8 overall pick as well. Now you trade that number 8 overall pick today with Sika Kone, and you understand, as much as I love Sika, you have to move on. You have to move on if you're moving up on this draft board because of how deep this class is. The big thing right now for the Chicago Sky, is really breaking down what they're going to be able to do with that number 7 overall pick. Now they trade Sika Kone and the number 8 overall pick, a 2025 second rounder, and a pick swap rights to their 2026 first round selection. That could either be from the Phoenix Mercury or that could be from the Chicago Sky with the 2026 first round pick. So with that being said, the Sky now sit at number 3 and number 7. I'm sitting pretty right now because I think there's so many different directions that this team could go. Not Sika. Rika Jackson is somebody that I think the Sky have been very high on from the very beginning, but due to the circumstances of the current constructed roster. You look at what the Chicago Sky have right now, and I think you have to take into consideration who's on the roster. The Chicago Sky only have one true center on the team, and that's Elizabeth Williams sitting at 6'3", 200 pounds. I mean, E is phenomenal. She is one of the most intelligent women in the entire game. That's just, point blank, period. There's no way around that. Like, when you break down how much knowledge she has on the game, understanding where she needs to be and how she needs to be in order to have success. I think when you look at Elizabeth Williams, she's a multiplier to this team. You can have people who come in and they are an addition because of their scoring, because of their rebounding, because of their defense, their plus minus, whatever. But when you have someone like Elizabeth Williams, she is a multiplier. She makes people around her better. Point blank, period. I've seen her do it. She is so intelligent in the post game and so intelligent in the paint. When you see her go out there, she is so calculated with every single step, every single move she makes. And I think that's so key and pivotal to what the Sky are going to do with the number 8 overall pick and the number 3 overall pick. Now, however, you understand Elizabeth Williams likely won't be on this team for the next 5 to 10 years. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, you look at what she's bringing to the organization, what she could potentially do. Pagliocca is one of those guys who's really huge on developing players and putting people in success to have success. I think that's one of the key words we're going to be talking about throughout this episode and throughout the season is success. I think that's the thing you want right now. Now, Elizabeth is 30. So you look at the roster right now, you have one center, you have a lot of forwards. And Rika's a forward who, will she start immediately over Isabel Harrison, Michaela or Brianna? I don't know. It's a tough conversation right now. Rika is one of those individuals that you would want to start immediately right away. But when you have these amount of players on the roster, even if you look at the guard positions, you're looking at Diamond DeShields coming back, Dana Evans having a phenomenal year last year after working with Chaz Franklin for some time. And then you look at Marina Mabry, who is not going anywhere anytime soon. And she had a great overseas offseason with the Chicago Sky organization. So to see what they're able to do right now, with Teaspoon as the head coach, the mentality that she brings, the overall schematic schemes that she's going to be able to put these teams and players through, I'm so excited to see what the era of Teaspoon is going to look like for the Chicago Sky. The big key factor for me is what's going to happen tomorrow night. When you if this was me, how I'm looking at it right now, you're going to take Camila Cardoso, number 3 overall. I don't think you even think twice about it. Standing at 6'7", national champion, coming out of the Gamecocks organization with Dawn Staley. I mean, we've looked at Aaliyah Boston from Asia Wilson and company, the bigs that have come out of there. Absolutely dominant forces at the WNBA level. Now, I understand her shooting definitely needs to improve. I understand her post game could use a little work. I think her first 3 ever made in her collegiate career came in the semifinals, if I'm not mistaken. So, her 3-point game, it definitely does need to develop as well. But that's not really what they're going to ask her to do on this team. You have Marina Mabry. You have Dana Evans. When I look at Camila Cardoso and take her number 3 overall in the Chicago Sky organization, I see her being put in the best position to have success. You're learning from Elizabeth Williams, you are learning from Teresa Witherspoon, and you have shooters all around you in Dana Evans and Marina Mabry who are going to be able to put you up and to have success. You also have Isabel Harrison in the post with you. I think this is a team that can definitely have success. Now, when you talk about that number 8 overall pick, we're going to or number 7 overall pick, we're going to continue to talk about the number 3 pick and everything else, the mock board, the mock draft. We're going to go live tomorrow during the draft and talk about it. But I think the big thing for me is who's going to be available. Why do the Chicago Sky move up from number 8 to number 7? And why did they give up so much just to do so? I think when you look at what the boards we're looking at, we're all talking about the mock boards. We're all talking about who's going where. A big piece of the board is saying that Angel Reese out of LSU, national champion, could be going to number 6 through 8. And I think the consensus right now is Jeff wants to get as close to Angel as possible. I think if you come out of this draft with a potential twin tower duo of Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, 2 national champions, two individuals who understand what it takes to win a championship, I mean, that's a match made in heaven. And then obviously on the other side of that, let's talk about the overall team. This is a team that had 0 first-round picks this season. This is a team that just brought in Kalia Copper, and there were conversations about bringing in Skylar Diggins-Smith or NECA or whoever. It was definitely going to come down to, could we sign big-name free agents? Now, the practice facility is a huge part of that. There's so much else that goes into it, to why big free agents didn't really sign here this past offseason. A lot of teams are bringing in a lot better resources than the Chicago Sky right now. We bring in Dwayne Wade, and that's cool, but that really hasn't translated into anything. The team definitely still has a lot of question marks, and I think they're going to answer those questions at some point in the near future. I would hope. And covering them in media for the last 3 seasons, like I've done, and going on year 4 this year, it's like, we understand that, a practice facility just can't be built overnight, but we definitely can put a plan in place to have success. And that definitely impacted a lot of free agents. Kalia Copper obviously has been very vocal about it as well, and talked about, what it's going to be like playing with BG and Diana Taurasi and Phoenix and having a practice facility. Like, there's so much that goes into that. So, I'm really curious to see what happens. I'm really curious to see how the team continues to develop. But let's be completely real about this. I think for the Chicago Sky right now, the big question, the big conversation is what the future of the organization looks like. Dana Evans, still under 25 years old. You bring in Angel Reese, you bring in Camila Cardoso. You have a big 3 right there. You still have Marina Mabry. You still have Elizabeth Williams. You still have Isabel Harrison. You have Michaela. You have Diamond DeShields. You have Brianna Turner. Like, you have some dogs on this team. Lindsay Allen. This is not going to be a lottery team next year. This is a playoff caliber roster, period. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for the Chicago Sky organization because of this. If they can somehow, some way land Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, I think the Chicago Sky are going to make the playoffs in 2024 and are going to be back in the WNBA finals conversations within the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's just point blank period how fast this turnaround can be. Now, again, like I mentioned, there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of different conversations going around about who the Sky take at number 3 and who is available at number 7 because we're looking at it right now. Let's look at the mock draft. The mock draft in 2024 via ESPN is very interesting, and I think it's one of those ones where you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt because anything can happen at any given time. The consensus, the only sure thing right now is Caitlin Clark is going number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever, standing at 6 foot tall out of Iowa. No doubt about it. Number 2, the Los Angeles Sparks, Cameron Brink, standing at 6'4", power forward slash center. You can kind of put her either or. Um, she was absolutely phenomenal this past season, but I could also see them going Camila Cardoso. Now, they do have a young, promising center on their roster already, and obviously they already have Azurá Stevens, so they're not undersized. But I think right here, what's interesting and why I think they go with Cameron Brink is because they don't need to go Cardoso because they have Brink number 2, and then they have the number 4 overall pick where they could take Rika Jackson. The Los Angeles Sparks are coming together very quickly. And there's a lot of different organizations right now really just having a great draft. If right now the Sparks leave the first round with Cameron Brink and Rika Jackson, and the Chicago Sky leave with Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, those are two teams that are immediately going to be viewed a lot differently than they were even 2 months ago. So you look at that. I'm gonna say right now the Chicago Sky take Camila Cardoso just because they're so forward heavy right now on the roster. I don't think you would put Rika in a situation to where she can have success, even though I think she is going to be one of the more promising players out of this draft class. She reminds me so much of Ka, the way she moves. Number 5, the Dallas Wings are projected to take Aaliyah Edwards. After that, JC Sheldon is going to the Washington Mystics. The Minnesota Timberwolves at number 7, Isabel Borles is going number 7 overall, and the Chicago Sky are projected to take 6'3" senior out of LSU national champion Angel Reese. So that's really like that's where I want to be right now. This is a great conversation. Now, this mock draft was made before the draft. So obviously the Sky might have felt some type of way that maybe somebody was going to trade up to number 7, or maybe that the Lynx were going to take Angel, or whoever they want to acquire at number 7. So I think you look at the Sky going up to number 7, that even puts them in a better position to get someone like Angel Reese. A lot of people, a lot of casual fans, there's networks that we watch, in Chicago and throughout the league that only covers the Chicago Sky once or twice a year. And that's completely okay. But anybody who thinks Angel Reese was going top 3, top 5 just wasn't watching ball. This is one of the best draft classes I've ever seen in my entire life. It's definitely up there with the Brittany Griner and Elena Delle Donne draft class of so long ago. Was it 2013, 2014? But man, I'm just excited about it. I'm excited about what this means for the Chicago Sky organization. Taking Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso would be huge. Now, if they do end up with if they end up with Rika Jackson and they still take Angel Reese, I still think they're in a great position to have success because the starting 5 that you would likely put out: Marina Mabrey at the 1, Dana Evans at the 2. You would have, for the future, at least, maybe not starting the season, but for the future, you would have Rika Jackson at the 3 spot. You'd have Angel Reese at the 4, and then Elizabeth Williams at the 5. So you have Marina, Dana, Rika, Angel, and Elizabeth. That's your 1 through 5. And then you have Diamond DeShields, Brianna, and Michaela on the bench. So the team overall is stacked. The team overall is in a great spot. Now, do we miss Kalia? Do we miss Bex? Do we miss everybody else on the organization? Of course. Of course. Do we miss our big Aussie and Alana Smith? Of course. But we're in a new era of Chicago Sky basketball right now, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for this team, for this organization, and what they're going to be able to do. Now, one big thing I will say is this: with Angel Reese, I want everybody to not take a step back, but allow her to develop, allow her to be the best version of herself. Angel Reese was absolutely dominant in the collegiate level. But I will say this: the W is a huge beast. You're looking at the Brianna Stewarts, the Asia Wilsons of the world that she's going to have to go up against every single night. And that's just the truth, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with her. I think if she were to fit in a Stephanie Dolson type role, where she's really just playing her role and being the best option for the Chicago Sky in certain situations, I think that's a great fit. Now, if you're going into this thinking that Angel Reese is going to be the number 1 option for the Chicago Sky, I think you're just really following collegiate ball. The WNBA is a different beast. It's a different animal. Players are so heavy on understanding assignments and understanding who they need to be and what they need to do and what role they're going to be playing in. And I believe Teresa Witherspoon's going to put them in position to have that success. So I understand Camila Cardoso understands that as well. Camila Cardoso is so used to just going into the paint, getting a little layup, boom, boom, boom. You're overpowering everybody. You're 6'7". Okay, cool. Aaliyah Boston's here now. Okay, cool. Alyssa Thomas and so many other greats are here at the center position. So, it's not going to come as easy, but when you have great players around you, it makes it 10 times easier to have success. So, with that being said, man, we're going to go live tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the Chicago Sky and breaking down everything WNBA. Until then, man, we are going to be back talking about it. Make sure you give us a shot. Check out the Shy Kid podcast or follow us on TikTok and Instagram for Chicago Sky pre and post game interviews, post draft interviews. Hopefully, we'll be talking to whoever is selected at number 3 and number 7 tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. With that being said, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow the Give Us a Shot Network. You can follow us on the link in the bios on any social media platform you find worthy enough to be listened to by you. You can check us out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and so many other platforms. Until then, this is Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid. Peace. Go Sky, baby.